What is going on with Bitcoin and the crypto markets? We thought 2025 was going to be an amazing year for crypto, and so far it's been anything but. We'll go ahead and take a look at that tonight. We're going to focus on Bitcoin and look at a short term, medium term, and long term forecast for this asset. This is the Gaussian snake. You're on crypto simulation theory. Nothing here is financial advice. So, taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, this is where we'll start. I pointed out in one of my videos back in January that Bitcoin experienced a death cross of its 100-day and 200-day whole moving average. And typically it took about anywhere from 3 weeks to up to 3 months for Bitcoin to get back above its 200-day whole moving average. Now, it certainly is the case right now that Bitcoin is experiencing some golden crosses. You have a golden cross of the 20-day with the 50-day. The 50-day looks like it's about to golden cross the 100-day. So we may be seeing some relief start to play in here for Bitcoin. Although we should note that the 200-day may not be overcome on the first attempt. That's currently at 94,000 and dropping pretty quickly. Turning on the Gaussian channel and the Bollinger Bands, we can see that Bitcoin is making another attempt to get into the daily red Gaussian channel, which is concave down and a little bit wide. This is a significant level that will need to be overcome at about 87K. If we can get through that, then maybe the next level would be around 93K. The good thing about the Bollinger Band is that Bitcoin has in fact gone outside the Bollinger Band not once but twice and is now in the upper quadrant of the Bollinger Band. Things seem to be compressing, so that could be a good thing. We could see Bitcoin maybe take a trip to the 93K region. It's hard to really imagine Bitcoin getting too bullish at this point, though, because there's just a lot of other things going on in the economy, tariffs, potential signs of stagflation that could be coming along, side of tariffs. A little premature to be talking about like that stuff happening, but we have to at least keep it in mind. So I'd like to take a look at Bitcoin on higher time frames. I'm not a huge fan of the daily time frame because I don't really care what happens on a day-to-day basis. I care more about the bigger moves. All you really have to do is just go out to the weekly time frame to get an idea that things don't look so hot. You can see that after bouncing off the red zone, we are still below the median line of the Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame. That sits at around 93K. We're seeing 93, 94K as kind of being a significant level. Not saying Bitcoin can't go above that, but the upper boundary of the Bollinger Band right now is just around the old all-time high of around 107.5K. It's just a little bit underneath it. Bottom of the Bollinger Band is around 78K, and the mouth of the Bollinger Band is opening down. I think the best case scenario we can hope for is something kind of like this. Gaussian channel has been a little bit indecisive and wiggly, so not much that you can really read into that, except the widening is not great off this double top formation. Okay, so these are the whole moving averages. We have the 20-week whole moving average, which is death cross the 50 and 100 and is about to death cross the 200. That is not a good sign if that does in fact materialize. We can see that that almost happened in September of 2024, but it ended up being a bottom. It's nice to see Bitcoin holding onto the 200 week because honestly, that is a line in the sand. Bitcoin has been above the 200 week sustainably ever since Q1 of 2023 when it finally got back above it after spending quite a bit of time beneath it. Now, if we do get below the 200 week, it doesn't mean that the cycle's over. It's, this happened in 2020 in March. It just means we were likely in for a little bit more pain than what we currently experienced. Yeah, and it does look like, the prevailing momentum is fairly bearish at the moment for Bitcoin on the weekly. See, the volume has not really been that impressive. So, yeah, I mean, where do we go from here? And just in terms of the moving averages, it's not looking like we're about to like break out to new highs or anything like that. Best we can hope for is to hold the line on the 200 week and maintain that macro bull market structure. Now, the big question that I'm trying to answer is, can Bitcoin hold this 150-week linear regression channel? It's held pretty well. It's a strong trend, as you can see right here. Can it hold and preserve this upward sloping structure? The last time that it hit the top of the channel was in March of 2024. It has not revisited the top since. Right now, the median price, if we were to go there, is about 96K. We are beneath the channel. We are actually kind of sweeping the same areas that we did in September. These candles are nice to see, 3 green weeks in a row, but the volume just isn't really there to make me believe that this is anything that's sustainable. Could we come up and potentially test the top of this channel? We could. What about the bottom of the channel? The bottom of the channel right now, let's say we were to hit it, let's just say in May, then that would be around 72, 71K. So yeah, I mean, best case scenario is that we can preserve this channel and then head higher, right? Like maybe at the end of the year and start to work our way up to like something like 200K, which if that were to happen in October, let's say, and I don't know if it will, but if it did, let's just say, then I would consider that to be probably the major cycle top for the crypto cycle. There is another possibility though, and that is that Bitcoin could break down out of this channel and start to head lower. And I think that something like that could happen if we end up in a recession or facing stagflation. I want to talk about that idea in another video. I think, I'll stick to just talking about Bitcoin, but I think there's a pretty high chance that we do, potentially come into the bottom of this channel. We haven't done that since late 2023. It's been a while since we visited it. We already did visit the top of the channel, so to go to the bottom wouldn't be that surprising. I would be a little worried though if it starts to break down, then we are talking about a new channel and it's a downward sloping channel. But that's something we'll worry about if it happens. We don't know if it's going to happen, so no need to kind of worry about it, just yet. Probably my favorite time frame to look at, unfortunately, this moves very slowly, is the 2-week time frame. Just look at that beautiful inflection. 2-week Gaussian channel looks very bullish. It's tight, it's bullish. Although the lower area is getting some attention, we are, as far as the Bollinger Band, we are kind of flirting with the median line of it. Looks like things are compressing. But this actually does look fairly good. Now, if we were to come down to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, we'd still, in terms of the 2-week, we'd still be in good shape. We could do that, right? We could come down and then we're hitting prices of around 63K. That would break the linear regression channel on the weekly, but ultimately your higher time frame structure matters a lot more than your lower time frame structure. Even if we were to come test the Gaussian channel, it seems a little early to do that, but if we were, we're talking probably somewhere around 61, 62K, so just below, below the November 2021 all-time high, actually around the April highs. So yeah, are we going to potentially come back in and test this region in the 60Ks? I think that is definitely possible in a recession if that were to happen. If we go back to like 2020, we were playing with this Gaussian channel the whole time. Now it did look different, right? Like it was a lot fatter at the time than certainly it is now. It's tightened quite a bit. In fact, we haven't seen the Gaussian channel this tight since 2017. And we know we had some brutal drops in 2017, but we never came below the median line of the 2-week Bollinger Band. Another time the Gaussian channel was this tight, yeah, I don't know. Hard to say 2013, but yeah. So the point is, like, it's quite tight, right? That's indicating pretty diminished volatility, and yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin looks really good on the 2-week time frame. And that's kind of what I come back to anytime we get a little too like worried about what's going on. Just come to the 2-week time frame, right? And so no use worrying about a recession right now, like in a serious way. But it's something I'll just keep in mind. Like, but even if we come down a little lower, I mean, we certainly did in quarter 3 of 2024. Didn't mean a thing. We went higher again. Are we gonna get another bunny hill, or are we gonna head down? That remains to be seen. So. Yeah, while the 2-week structure looks really good when you're using these metrics, we should look at other metrics as well, and we might see, some areas of concern there that we're not seeing with just these statistical metrics. Okay, so as far as moving averages go, we have the 40-week in yellow, we have the 100-week in blue, 200-week in white, and the 400-week in red. We're well above the 400-week. I mean, the 400-week is in like, it'd probably be in the 60s by the time Bitcoin got to it, if it did. Back in 2020, we certainly flirted quite a bit with the 400-week, and actually went way below it. So we look better than we did in late 2019, early 2020. But we are potentially losing the 200-week, and that's not a great thing. And like I said, if that happens, that hasn't really happened in a while. Last time that happened was in December of 2021, and we had a pretty long bear market. So I don't think we're going to see a bear market like this. Like if we do get one, I don't think that's going to be that dramatic. Honestly, I don't. But there is a potential incoming death cross of the 40 week with the 100 week, and we should pay attention to that. Okay, and the fact that we are just barely hanging on with relatively low volume, it's not a very promising sign for upward movement at the moment. This is the 2-week ADX and DI showing a bull bubble kind of closing in. The bears are getting some control, although right now it's very stagnant. The ADX is at a trend strength of 33, which is a strong trend, though not nearly as strong as a June 2024 trend. And that was, a downtrend. So we are coming back in potentially. We might get a bear bubble. It could happen. It could happen this month. Could happen in April, May. I don't know exactly if it happens. Right? We don't know if it's going to happen, but the bull bubble from 2023 to 2024 looks eerily similar to the bull bubble from 2020 to 2021. Clearly, we did have a bull market that occurred here. I like to compare it to the 2019 Bitcoin only, but just like extend it out quite a bit. But, we did have something that looks very similar to past bull cycles, although look at the 2016, 2017, that was much, much longer. So it almost, yes, while this does certainly have a nice length to it, it feels like we were kind of shortchanged on our bull market. And, but yeah, things are kind of turning down right now. Hard to really tell what's going on with this metric. This one is a lot more telling to me. This is the average sentiment oscillator. And you can see that we've had a bull bubble kind of since February of 2023. So going on just a little over 2 years. And, that is, I think, one of the longest bull bubbles we've ever had. You have August of 2015 to April of 2018. That's your, 2016, 2017 bull market. That was pretty long, longer than what we have now. You have March 2012 to about May of 2014. So, and not all this, just because you have a bull bubble doesn't mean that the price action is bullish. The price action is only bullish when the blue or green, I don't know how that looks to you. It looks kind of blue to me, but it might be green. When the green sentiment is going up and the red sentiment is going down, that tends to be bullish, right? So what we're seeing here is just kind of like a head and shoulders formation, making me think that we could close this gap and have a brief bear market, right? Like that seems, this is turning down right now. It seems kind of like a likely situation. And I liken it to something kind of like what happened from late 2019 to 2020, but March 2020, but probably a little bit extended. So that's kind of like the recessionary scare element that we are seeing show up on indicators. Now, one of my most reliable indicators is the reverse Chanday momentum oscillator. This is one I've really been paying close attention to. If you could look at like past bull markets, you can see that any time that the RCMO has hit levels above 85, it's marked a significant top in the market, right? So this was like June of 2011. We had to come all the way down to negative 86.32. And generally, if you're coming down into these like heavy negative areas, below negative 50, that can indicate a probable bottom to the market. And so just 2 years later, we ran to the top again in March of 2013. Then you know what happened in April. That was a significant cycle top. We actually didn't come down below the zero line, but we had sort of like a dead cat bounce in November of 2013. And, that was a significant top. And then everything just went to hell. And we were down again at a lower level than actually we were in 2011. So, and this doesn't mean that your bear market's over. It just means the most dramatic drawdown is over, right? So it got to a level of like negative 80 something, and it was in 2015, and then the bull bubble built again, and this was a very slow bull market that crested in December of 2017, right? Like it was just a really slow ride up, and we got to a level of 87, which was lower than before, but still above the 85 level, and then a sharp drop down in June 2018, tried to get back above the signal line, didn't happen. Double bottom in January of 2019, and then we saw another bubble that only took us to 68. And so this one I want to call out particular attention to, because while this bubble was not very dramatic compared to maybe what we're experiencing now, I kind of liken this period from, say maybe April or so of 2019 to about August. This was a bull market, but this was a bull market for Bitcoin only, right? For the most part, Bitcoin got to $14,000. And notice that we didn't even breach the 85 level, but we did have to come back down and test these lower levels that were below like -20, like -39, -34. And once we put in that double bottom, we got our 2020, 2021 bull run. We got all the way back up above 85. We know what happened then. Very long trip down. And in September of 2022, notice this wasn't December, but September, and it's true, we had the majority of Bitcoin drawdown occur before the December bottom, right? Like the drawdown from say like September to December wasn't as dramatic as from late 2021 to September. So we got to a level of -66 and then started climbing our way back up again. And we hit a level of 97. And so this is where things get a little bit scary, right? Because we're hitting a level that is not often hit, right? Like there's very few times that this level is hit. And we actually put in a lower low on the trip back down last year, suggesting that this trend that was bullish from September of 2022 to February of 2024 has now flipped more bearish. And not only that, but we are also putting in a very ominous head and shoulders. Okay. And you might say, well, can you have a head and shoulders pattern on an indicator? Sure, why not? Like it follows momentum just like charts do. Right? And so it's actually a reflection of the activity that's happening on the chart. So the signal line is flipped red again. We're below the signal line after unsuccessfully testing it from above. I think we're going to get a rejection at the signal line. And I think it could happen next week. It could happen in April. We could get maybe slightly above it in April, but I honestly don't think this is going to hold for long if it does hold at all. And I think May is going to be red. Like I think we're going to have to come back down to these lower levels. And that it is a little bit scary because it's a question of, well, how low do we go? Right. I think Bitcoin is going to likely have a dramatic drop. It's happened every cycle. If you think what's already happened this cycle is frightening, it really isn't compared to past cycles. I mean, if you think about what happened in 2020, Bitcoin almost took out the low from 2018. And then, similarly, we had scares in 2015 and 2016. There's always some kind of scare. I feel like we're in that time in the cycle where we're transitioning from risk on to risk off, but we had one hell of a Bitcoin only bull market. I mean, this is so much bigger than the 2019 echo bubble. So it's a little bit difficult to compare it to 2019. I just think that's like the closest thing I could compare this to, because we've kind of been risk off this entire time with the federal funds rate being so high and this was like a quantitative tightening bull market. So we haven't really seen our quantitative easing bull market. I think the transition from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing is going to be bearish. I think the market is going to react in a bearish way. I think the Fed has probably gone too far. And I think us getting a recession or a severe correction in the stock market is a likely thing. I do think it is a likely outcome. And that's why I'm saying, like, even though the 2-week structure looks good, it may not stay looking good. And the RCMO kind of paints a picture where I think that kind of outcome is a likely situation where things for the first half of this year just don't go our way, right? And I'm talking about Bitcoin, but of course Bitcoin affects the rest of the market. So, I don't know, we could see some movement in April. It's hard to say exactly what that would look like. And maybe coming into May, we could have a very dramatic drop, and maybe then we bounce a little bit in the summer and we could put in that final low, maybe sometime in the late summer. And then maybe that's enough to start building out for another move back up, and I don't know if that's exactly what it's going to look like, but I could see something like that playing out. I just feel like the most likely direction is down, and these spikes up will be upward price movement in the market, but ultimately I think the trend direction has gone down and not up anymore. That's what I'm seeing on the RCMO. Can I find confluence with any other indicator? I like these visual illustrations because they're very telling about kind of where we're at in terms of the cycle. You can see that these red drawdowns and with the red histogram bars, that's when the bears are firmly in control. It's been a while, right? Like the bulls, when the green histogram bars are going, the bulls are in control. And we seen long periods where the bulls have been in control, but then we do have to have these periods where the bears are in control. The bear markets have been getting less severe on the bull bear power trend. I mean, if you look at this red mountain, it is certainly less dramatic than the red mountain before it, which is less dramatic than the red mountain before it, and so on and so forth. And that's just because Bitcoin's volatility is diminishing. Are we about to head into a longer term bear market? I mean, we're not currently in one on the 2-week time frame, but we can see that the bulls are losing a little bit of their control. We've been in a bull market, for quite a while. I mean, not as long as like 2016, 2017, like in terms of like the just sheer length, right? Like we can see this has been a shorter amount of time. Certainly more impressive than what happened in 2020, 2021. But I do feel that if a recession happens, we're going to see a red mountain form. I think that red mountain is not a bad thing for our cycle. I mean, it would be a technical bear market, but it would be a recessionary bear market, and it would help in a transition from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. And this, Bitcoin might not draw down as far as people think. Like, what is the absolute lowest I think Bitcoin would go in a recessionary bear market? Well, we could pull up the risk metric and kind of take a look and see what some possible values might be. Okay. Every bear market Bitcoin's ever been in and every scare has taken us to this blue line. The blue line right now is just under $40,000. So if we were to go back down to $40,000 at some point, which I think it would actually be higher by that time, like let's say August is like the final bottom, or maybe July or something, that's like a price of around 43, 44K. And that could mark the bottom of a bear market. We could have a very short bear market that only lasts you could argue we're kind of sort of heading in it right now. And maybe this bear market only lasts for part of the year and doesn't have to go into 2026. And it's, even though it would be a long bear market, like by all means, not a lot of fun to go through, it's really not that different from just a prolonged version of what happened in 2019 heading into 2020. And to me, it's very similar. It's just drawn out. And what that would tell me is that once we get to that sweet spot of quantitative easing, assuming we don't enter into stagflation, and I'd like to be positive and think that's not going to happen, that could actually switch the gears and get things going bullish again. Not only that, but like if you look at 100 risk right now, it's already almost at $200,000. When I first started making videos on this channel, a little over a year ago, 100 risk was like, I think at 150K or something. We could even probably track it. Let's see. I started making videos on this channel in January of 2024. At that time, 100 risk was like 150K. So we've already gained $50,000 for risk. And the reason why I talk about that is because every true cycle top has occurred. I'm talking major cycle tops. And I consider the April 2021 one to be a little bit more relevant than the one that occurred in November of 2021 from just a indicator's point of view. Every single major cycle top has occurred at this red line, right? And is this going to be the first one that doesn't? Well, I mean, it could, but I still think we're going to reach the top of the red line. And the question is, well, when would that happen? When could that occur? I honestly think this bull market could extend quite a ways into 2027, 2028, something like that. Like if we clear a recession out, let's say that we spend most of 2025 in a recession, okay? I'm not saying this recession has to happen. I'm just saying, let's suppose it did. And let's say that we start to like carve out some kind of bottom in maybe late quarter 3, early quarter 4, and start moving back up again. But we might not reach our major cycle top until end of 2026. And at that point, it'll be close to 300,000. Or maybe the cycle surprises us and just goes for a lot longer than what we think, because we cleared a recession out, and maybe we head into 2028 or 2027, at which point we're looking at maybe $300,000 as a major cycle top for Bitcoin. And, if we were to hit like 40K or something around that, you're looking at like roughly around a 7x move, which would be really, in line with diminishing returns. Now, this, of course, does make you wonder about like Ethereum and what would go on with that and all the altcoins and everything else. I think I'll have to do separate videos for all those topics. It's just too much to unpack in one video. But I do think that the next segment of the bull run, if and when it occurs, is going to be very heavily led by Ethereum. Okay, and so that's why I think in our next video, we're going to take a good look at Ethereum and ETH Bitcoin, ETH USD, And that will kind of segue into altcoins and kind of seeing what is likely to occur in the coming months and even years. So, we have the institutionalization of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has an ETF. Bitcoin has about 6 to 7% institutional ownership, and that is something significant. It's not, a lot of people are saying, well, if we get a recession, Bitcoin's going to save the day. I don't think so. That's sort of gold's role, and man, gold is at $3,000. I mean, I'm just astounded by how high it's going. I mean, you want to see something parabolic? Let me just show you. I mean, look at that. It's not a great sign when gold's doing that, right? Gold going really parabolic doesn't really like spell confidence in the economy. So I think it's wise to sort of like think that a recession could happen, this year, and clear the way for the transition from risk off to risk on. And once we're in risk on, I think that's going to be some really fun and good times. But unfortunately, we may have to go through some pain first. So yeah, I mean, that's basically my overview of Bitcoin for now. I hope you enjoyed the content. Be sure to give this video a like. Um, Comment your thoughts down below. Share this video. Spread the word around about crypto simulation theory. It really helps my channel grow. And I spend a lot of time in my Telegram channel, so be sure to check that out too. Crypto Simulation Theory Telegram. Links are in the video description, along with my Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all the other stuff. So thank you for joining me. This was not financial advice, but it certainly was a fun video, fun overview of what's going on in the market. Well, the market's not very fun right now. This is just kind of giving you a framework that I am still pretty bearish, and I'm likely to continue being bearish until Bitcoin shows evidence that it could put in a higher high, and I don't think now is the time. So enjoy a relief rally should it occur. I think it will be short-lived. A lot of people will probably sell out, um, sell out of their positions, and the market will ride lower. I don't know if it's the market will ride lower in April or if it'll ride lower in May, but I don't think whatever relief rally that we do have, I don't think it's going to last for very long. So those are my thoughts. I think the pain will likely continue this year with bounces along the way, and we should hopefully find some clarity in the second half of the year. That's what I think about Bitcoin. All right, take care.